Welcome to the podcast session. Let's kick off by diving into a compelling discussion about a video featuring Douglas Macgregor making the bold claim that war is inevitable.
Yeah, it's quite striking, isn't it? The idea that modern geopolitics seems to be almost engineered toward conflict, especially with Iran on the horizon.
Absolutely. Macgregor, a retired colonel and former senior advisor to the U.S. Secretary of Defense, argues that the decision has effectively been made for another war with Iran.
Yep,
It's a provocative stance, and it's like he believes the momentum toward conflict is unstoppable.
right. And it really forces us to consider the underlying strategic moves. But what really caught my attention was how he juxtaposes the situation with Iran against issues on the European front.
Exactly, and that's not all. He points out that on the European front, Trump's statements come off as absurd and dangerous with regards to the proxy war in Ukraine. When you consider that alongside his call for war with Iran, it paints this picture of an increasingly unstable global order.
And there's that element of responsibility falling on Europe, right? McGregor basically contends that while Trump is pulling out, Europe is left grappling with a proxy war in Ukraine.
Yup, absolutely. He emphasizes that the Europeans are now burdened with the responsibility of a losing war in Ukraine, and you can just sense the panic setting in among European leaders.
Yes, exactly.
It's like they're caught between a rock and a hard place.
True. But don't you think that saying war is inevitable might overlook some nuances? I mean, aren't there efforts at diplomatic engagement that could still change the course?
That's a good point. I mean, McGregor's perspective is certainly alarmist
Yeah.
in a way. It's like he's using his military background to highlight all these imminent threats, but it leaves little room for the possibility that political negotiations or other non-military strategies might still avert conflict.
Exactly, it's a bit of a deterministic view. Yet, it makes us reflect on how narratives, especially from military figures, can embed a certain fatalism into policy debates.
Right on. And speaking of narratives, the video itself, produced by Glenn Deason, lends additional weight to the discussion. Glenn, being a professor of Russian international affairs, provides context that goes beyond just one geopolitical hotspot.
Certainly.
It's interesting how media and academic commentary mix in these types of discussions.
Glenn Deason's channel has always taken a bold stance, pointing out, for example, how these geopolitical rifts reflect a broader multipolar world struggle, where even traditional alliances seem to be unraveling.
Yep, absolutely. And you know what's equally provocative is how the video mentions Trump's statements, which are described as absurd and dangerous. It's not every day you hear such bold claims that a major political figure is effectively leaving Europeans to handle a proxy war in Ukraine. It stirs up a lot of questions about responsibility and risk management at the highest levels of policy making.
Think about it. When you're dealing with issues as grave as potential wars, even a small miscalculation or a provocative statement can escalate tensions further.
Exactly. And McGregor seems convinced that a war with Iran, a conflict that could potentially reshape the Middle East, is not just a possibility, but an inevitable outcome.
Definitely.
He asserts that the decision is already made, which is a strong statement that forces us to reflect on the mindset behind military strategy.
Though I must respectfully challenge that. Isn't it a bit overemphasized? I mean, isn't there room to argue that these are predictions based on current trends rather than inescapable outcomes?
That's a fair challenge. It's true that labeling such complex geopolitical trends as inevitable might oversimplify matters.
Yeah,
However,
I agree.
McGregor's perspective seems rooted in years of military analysis and his personal experience, which gives it a kind of gravitas, even if it might lean towards a deterministic view.
And then there's the angle where Europe is left to contend with the proxy war in Ukraine after Trump's pullout. This mix of responsibility transfers paints a bleak picture, doesn't it?
It really does. It's like, a domino effect. One major power starts stepping back, leaving a vacuum that, as he sees it, can't possibly be managed without further conflict. And that
Yes,
sense of
indeed.
impending disorder really permeates the overall message.
And what's fascinating is how this discussion bridges the gap between historical military strategy and modern day political maneuvers.
Absolutely. McGregor is essentially arguing that when you look at historical patterns, the conditions are ripe for conflict. But then you have these modern geopolitical players like Trump and European leaders whose actions seem to exacerbate the situation rather than mitigate it. It's like watching a tragic reenactment of geopolitical miscalculations with high stakes.
Exactly. And the narrative really challenges us to think about the cyclical nature of war. Do you think that by putting forth such a deterministic viewpoint, he risks reinforcing a self fulfilling prophecy?
That's an insightful question. There's definitely a potential risk that, by continuously predicting inevitability, we might in some ways prepare for it rather than prevent it. It's a double edged
Agreed.
sword, because his assessments might serve as a wake up call, but they also risk normalizing the idea of conflict as an unavoidable aspect of human affairs.
Right. And it makes me wonder if the tone of such content might inadvertently influence policy debates or public sentiment in favor of more militarized approaches.
Absolutely. And the video's production itself, with its auto-dubbed audio tracks and emphasis on dramatic narrative, adds to that effect. It's designed to push viewers toward accepting a very stark view of the current international
Yeah.
climate. The presentation style amplifies the urgency of the message.
And another interesting aspect is how the video leverages the credibility of both Macgregor and Glenn Deason. Their combined backgrounds in military strategy and international affairs create a potent mix, even if one might argue about the selective interpretation of facts.
Indeed, their credentials lend a strong air of authority. But there's always that element of bias, selecting specific events like Trump's controversial statements and European responsibilities in Ukraine to fit a broader narrative. It shows how narratives are crafted, sometimes to serve political or ideological ends.
Totally. And it's interesting how, while the content is heavy on military strategy and geopolitical inevitabilities, it's embedded within a broader trend of today's media, a focus on sensationalism and highlighting doom and gloom scenarios.
Right. It's like we're living in an era where negative predictions attract more attention. This video is a perfect reflection of that mindset. It grabs you with apocalyptic imagery.
Yeah, exactly.
Regardless, it does push us to not fall complacent regarding the delicate balance of international relations.
It really does. And while it's easy to get caught up in the intensity of these claims, there's also the counter-argument that diplomacy and strategic alliances might still counterbalance these aggressive predictions.
True, and that's where a more balanced debate becomes essential. On one hand, you have the hardline military strategist forecasting inevitable conflict. On the other, there are voices that remind us of strategic deterrence and the potential for peaceful resolution. It's that
Yep.
tension that makes the discussion so critical and so timely.
And what do you think is the takeaway for listeners? Should we brace for imminent conflict or focus on strengthening diplomatic channels?
I'd say it's less about resigning ourselves to conflict and more about recognizing the warning signs while actively seeking
Yeah,
alternatives.
exactly.
The content, as dramatic as it is, can serve as a catalyst for deeper thought on how strategies are formed and the importance of investing in peaceful resolutions.
For sure. And I like how this discussion blends historical military perspectives with current political analysis, even if some of the predictions seem extreme. It definitely sparks a broader debate.
Absolutely. It challenges us to re examine predetermined narratives. Even if we critique the inevitability triad, it's important to be aware of the interplay between military thinking and political strategy. It's a call to remain
spot on.
vigilant and think critically about where our world might be headed.
And it leaves us with plenty of food for thought. Like, do we see these events unfolding as predicted? Or will the unexpected twists of diplomacy alter the course?
Exactly. It's a reminder that while some forces may seem beyond our control, there's always room for change if we actively engage with the challenges and opportunities of international relations. It pushes the debate
indeed.
forward, highlighting that the future isn't set in stone.
Right. And it makes the role of informed public discourse crucial. Critically engaging with these narratives, instead of blindly accepting inevitability, can really shape how societies respond to emerging crises.
Well said. By questioning extreme claims and exploring potential alternatives, we empower ourselves to demand robust, thoughtful policies that prioritize peace over
absolutely.
conflict. It's all about challenging the narrative and contributing towards a more balanced global perspective.
So, while the video packs a punch with its claims about inevitable war, it also serves as a reminder to scrutinize and debate these bold assertions. This way, we can better understand the complexities of modern geopolitics.
Exactly. It's a conversation that's as relevant as ever, and one that we should continue engaging with on all levels, from academic debates to policy-making circles.
Right on.
Thanks for this deep dive. It's been quite enlightening.
Absolutely. Till next time, let's keep questioning and exploring these critical issues, shaping a future that remains in our hands.